Hey everybody, just getting ready to turn the lights out here in my office tank, and I noticed this ram's horn snail is hanging on to the leaf of that temple plant, and it's chewing away on what looks to me like a dead spot in the leaf. And there's always a lot of controversy. Pardon me for being out of breath. I just ran downstairs to grab my camera because I wanted to get this on video. But there's always a lot of controversy as to whether or not snails are destructive or nuisances in our tanks. And I have had a lot of people say that they've seen snails eat living leaves and living plants. And I'm not going to argue with that and say that that's not the case. But in my experience, what I get with the snails is that they tend to go after dead patches on the leaves or dying or decaying roots. You can see here where all those little dead spots are. I don't know, honestly, if that's a result of the snail chewing on it and causing those dead spots, or if the snail is just on that and grooming those dead spots off. I tend to think that those are dead spots that the snail is just taking advantage of, not causing. This is one of the lowest leaves on the plant. It's fully submerged. Generally, these plants, once they become emergent and they start getting all that atmospheric CO2, they don't rely so much on the leaves underwater, and therefore they stop sending nutrients to them, and they fade away, turn yellow, and die off. I'm constantly pulling leaves out of this tank as they detach and make their way out and start floating around in the water. So is this snail doing that damage, or is this snail cleaning up that damage? I honestly do not know, but I have always assumed that the snails were cleaning up the damage, not doing the damage. Now, I will say that sometimes, like with my plecos, they won't be on the leaf so that they're actually eating the leaf per se, but if they're scraping the leaf and trying to scrape the offwalks that's growing on the leaf, if you look at this one, you can see how it's got all that stuff blowing around on there, and there's all kind of growth on there. I can easily see the snail crawling across the leaf to scrape that off in the same way that a rubber lip pleco might crawl, scrape across that. And the damage that occurs from that scraping may injure the leaf and then later cause damage. I'm not really sure how coarse a snail's teeth are, but I have seen snails' mouths, and they do this weird sort of undulating scraping motion. So if they do really have good scraping teeth in there, and I'm assuming they do, I could see that doing superficial damage to the leaf, and then that later causing problems with the leaf. But I've never really seen the aquatic snails eating on the leaves. The way you might think like snails or slugs will get in your garden and eat the leaves off your garden plants or whatever. I've never really seen that happen with the snails in my aquarium. It always just seems that they are feeding off of what's already dead or dying. Of course, if I throw algae wafers in there, a lot of times you'll come back later and you will see 3 or 4 snails all gathered around an algae wafer or bits of flake food or whatever on the bottom of the tank. But I typically don't see what I think of as snail damage on my leaves. I mean, you can look at the leaves and you see they don't look like they've been chewed up. At least, again, not what I would think of when I typically think of what snail damage would look like on leaves of my plants out in my garden. Maybe aquatic, maybe that is snail damage on an aquatic level. Again, I assumed that leaf was already having issues and was having a few sort of dead spots on it. We got another leaf right there that's got some dead spots on it. It looks like the snails have come along and cleaned away all the sort of dead spots and left the green living leaf behind. And likewise on just about all the plant or all the leaves that are underwater, a lot of these, if you look at them, you'll be able to see those spots down the middle where the sort of center area is dying off. Again, I think it's just because we now have emergent growth and the plant's not relying on these leaves so much anymore. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, whether or not you think that snail is in there actually damaging that leaf or doing cleanup work and actually scraping away the dead material and leaving behind the nice living green plant. So there you go, everybody. I've got 4 or 5 of these really big ram's horn snails in this tank. I don't have the heart to pluck them out of here and feed them to Butterbean. They've been in this tank for so long now. They're so big. I actually kind of consider them inhabitants of the tank. I don't have a bad relationship with snails in my aquarium at all. I don't have a problem at all with having pond snails or the types of snails that most people tend to think of as nuisance snails. Generally don't bother me at all. And those ram's horn snails are really cool looking when you actually stop and take a look at them. So I'm not unhappy with them being in the tank at all. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Again, I would like to hear your thoughts about what you think was going on with that snail. Was it doing the damage or was it cleaning up the damage? Let me know. So thanks for watching. Don't forget this is my office tank. I'll see you real soon in the next one.